Hello creative friends, this is Joy coming to you with another video. This is a video that's part of a series of videos where I start with making a junk journal and then videos on making different elements to put into the junk journal, and then at the end I have a video showing you how to put it all together. And so I hope that you're following along with me in making a junk journal, making elements to fill your junk journal, and then filling it up at the end. So here I have this free printable that I printed off. I got it online somewhere at some point. I don't even remember now. And I printed it off, and I just printed it off on what was in the printer at the time, which was just regular copy paper. And if I had actually thought about it, I would have gone and put in some heavy cardstock to print it on that, but I didn't even think about it at the time. And I'm just trying to find a tag in my stash big enough to fit that biggest feather there. And then here I'm going through a stash of papers. I've got some collage papers that I got from Julie Faye Van Balzer, other collage papers from stuff that I've done, some scrap paper from washi, or not washi, deli prints, where I cleaned off paint from different projects, and I've even got some papers in here like wax paper that I use behind art journal pages, so they're like covered in paint, that I thought, well, heck, I could use that for something. So here I'm just kind of quickly cutting out this feather, and here's one of those pieces of deli paper with paint all over it that I was using, behind art journal pages and to paint, use for painting things. And so it's covered in all kinds of paint, and I really thought it would be pretty on this tag because it's got gold on it. And so I decided that that's what I want to put on the tag. So I'm just using my Uhu glue stick to glue this down to the tag. And then I glue the feather that I cut out to the tag. But I decided, since I'm not going to fussy cut these feathers out, I wanted to try to knock back the white, that little bit of a white edge that I left. So I just get out my distress ink and decided to go around the edges to kind of knock back the white on the edges of this feather. And it was just easier for me to put it on the paper and go around the edges. So that's what I'm doing here. Like I said, this here is like one video in a series of videos that I'm doing, because I've always wanted to create a junk journal and just like stuff it full of stuff like I see other people doing. Just never seem to have, the time, or, just it's, so many other things. And I decided that this is the time that I'm going to make me a junk journal, and I'm going to fill it and stuff it with all the things. And so that's what I'm doing. And I thought I'd record it all, and hopefully, somebody will watch and play along and do the same. So this fabric is actually fabric that I used to make the cover with, and it was leftover strips, and I thought, oh, this will be perfect to put on these tags, and that way these tags will like match my journal that I created. So here I'm just trying to figure out like how long, like I put the piece on and it was too long, and I thought, well, maybe if I fold it in half and then put it on, I could do like a double, but I decided that that was too much fabric. It was too thick and too bulky. So I did end up cutting it in half and removing one of the pieces of fabric, and then it was just the perfect length for this tag. And this tag is the biggest one that I've done, and I knew that when I put it in my journal, it was probably going to, I think it's about the same size as my journal, so it was going to stick out the top, which I'm perfectly fine with. But yeah, I wanted a big tag to put this biggest feather on, and so yeah, I'm really happy with it. And I do end up at this point, I like it, but I feel like it could use something else. But I decide to put it aside for now while I decide what I might want to do with it more. So here's another tag, and I used another just piece of paper here, and that I glued on here, just scrap paper with some paint on it. And then I decided to, this is another printable, I decided to cut out this little bird and put on this tag. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just cutting out a bird to put on here that I thought would go well. And I'm edging the edges with some stickles, or with stickles. I will be using stickles here in a minute. You will see that. I'm edging the edge with some Distress ink, and then I decide to pull out the stickles because I'm like, these tags need some bling. So, and I've got stickles. I've had it for a while, so I might as well use it. So I'll pull out the stickles and use that here in just a second after I add another piece of fabric to the top of this. This, if I'm going awry, I apologize because this is like the third take of trying to narrate this video. And I don't know. It's like technology is supposed to be great, but sometimes it could be a real pain in the ass, like it is today. So here I bling it out with some stickles so that I'm much happier with that. And I set that aside to dry. And I ended up making like 10 or 12 tags to go in my journal. I have 5 signatures, so I wanted to do at least 2 tags per signature. But I'm not going to, show you like every single one that I make and how I made it, because the video would just be too long. So I'm just showing you a few different ones and different things you can do to make tags for your junk journal. So here, this is a piece of deli paper that just had some leftover paint, that I cleaned off on it from some project at some time. I thought would go good on this tag, so I just glued the whole thing down, and then I cut around it, and I made sure that it was, all the edges and the corners were glued down. So I cut around that and cut off the excess off of this. So yeah, I like I said, show you, I think it's like 5 different tags that I make, and different things that you can, ways of making tags. You can also, like, if I didn't already have a hoard of tags, then I would, make tags out of like file folders or cardstock or scrapbook paper, heavy duty scrapbook paper. But I do have quite a hoard of tags, and it's like I've got a hoard of everything. So it's probably time that I start trying to use these things. But yeah, so I've, like I said, been really wanting to do a junk journal for a long time, and I felt like, well, now's the time. So as you saw, I went around the edge of this feather with the Distress ink again, and I'm gluing it down, trying to get it somewhat centered on the tag. And then I add a piece of the same fabric to the top. It's, was getting little strands, clipping some of the strands. I don't mind some strings hanging off, but that was a little bit too much string at that point. And then I'm deciding, what else, can I add to this? And here's all my ephemera that, I've organized. And a lot of this came from, some of it was free printables, and a lot of it came from a fundle that I got from the Paper Outpost that I ended up, having to cut up and organize and everything. And I do have a video too on that, like organizing your ephemera, and I had to do that in order to make my tags. And so I was like organizing ephemera while I was making tags, and then going back, back and forth. So there will be a video showing you how I did all that and what I did with that. So that way, when I finally got them all, everything cut out, cut up, organized, it was so much easier in the final video when I go to put it all together to actually just flip through what I have and, start filling up the journal. It made things so much easier once I got all the elements made, all my ephemera organized, and then actually started just filling the journal and putting it all together. So here is a tag that has some newsprint on it, and I decided it would really be cute with 3 little butterflies. I see this, time and time again, and I just think it's super cute. So that's what I decided to do. I was going to put these three little butterflies on this tag. And their little antennas, unfortunately, are too teeny tiny for me to even try to fussy cut around. And I'm trying to fussy cut as best I can around them. But so I just end up cutting off the antennas and then drawing them back on with the Sharpie at the end. So here I'm just trying to get as close as I can to fussy cutting these butterflies out. And these were also another free printable that I had just printed out on regular copy paper. And I did end up gluing like the whole sheet to like a heavy cardstock so they'd have some stability. But then when I went to try to glue them down, I saw they were peeling off the cardstock. So I ended up peeling the cardstock off and just gluing the butterflies down anyway. And here I'm going around the edges with the distress ink to try to cover up some of the white where I didn't get, cut it as close as I would like. And then here I realized they're not even sticking to the cardstock, so I just peeled it off, and decided to not even worry about it because they're getting, glued to this tag anyway. But some of the other printables that I printed off on copy paper, I did end up, like cutting it up into elements that I, was going to use, as ephemera by itself. And so I did need to make sure that they were on heavy cardstock because they were, ephemera that I can like stick in pockets or paper clip, to a page or what have you. So these tags came with this string. So I just took a piece of that and put that in the top of this tag. And you saw me there a minute ago putting on their little antennas. And I decided to add stickles to this one as well. But after I added the stickles, I realized that it needed something else. And I'm like, oh shoot, I should have gone around the edges with some of the distress ink. So I decided to try to very carefully go around the edges with some distress ink and not disturb the stickles. Yeah, right. That was a great plan because I smeared the stickles. But luckily I was able just to wipe it off, go around the edges. I went over the top of the tag a little bit to knock back some of the white and then reapply the stickles. So it turned out okay, it was fine. And then set that aside to dry. So that I thought turned out super cute. And then here's where I go back to the one that I originally started with. I decided that this bird would look cute on here, and so I decided to glue that down. And also decided, by this point I was like, we need more bling, we need stickles. So since I was adding stickles to the other tags, and I decided this one needed stickles as well. So I put the little bird on there, which I thought was cute, and then added some stickles to this tag. But yeah, I was really happy with all the tags that I created. Of course, with all the stickles, I had to set them all, aside and let them dry, but that was fine. I'd let them dry overnight, and then they were great. And these two tags I found in my stash, and they were actually left over from another project where I'd painted them up and stuff, but I didn't end up using them. And here I'm just gluing on a piece of cardstock that was left over from what I used to cover the inside of the journal when I made it. And so I thought that'd be really cute to glue on here for like a pocket, and that way I could stick something in there. So that's what I'm doing there. I made a little pocket, and I'm trying to decide what I want to decorate it with because it just needs something else. I just can't figure out what else, to do with that pocket. And I'm going through my ephemera that I've got organized and trying to decide what I want on these tags, what I want to glue to the one tag and what I want to put in the pocket of the other tag. So here I'm trying to decide which one I like better, whether I like the one flower or the other flower, and I decide I like the one flower the best. And then going through trying to decide what I want to add to that pocket and to put in the pocket. So I do find a little picture of a couple of butterflies that I thought would go cute in the pocket there. And so I inked the edges of that and then put that in the pocket. So I'm happy with that. And then I'm debating on whether I want to add another little something to the pocket. But then I decide, no, I'm not going to add anything more to it because it'll cover up the pretty butterflies and I want to see the butterflies. So I add a piece of the fabric again that I had left over to the top of these tags. And then I add some stickles to them. And I do end up adding to the top edge of that pocket at the end a piece of washi tape to kind of help edge that out. Here I'm inking around this flower and gluing that down. And then I actually ended up having some blue stickles that I was able to use on this particular tag that matched the flower and the tag. So I was happy about that. But that's pretty much the tags that I made. Like I said, at the end you'll see all of them that I made to go in my junk journal. So I hope that you're following along and making a junk journal with me and making tags and paper clips and all the fun stuff, pockets and belly bands and corner tucks and all that to go along, to go in there in the junk journal. So I'm really excited about finally getting around to doing one, making one myself, and getting all these elements made so I can start filling it up. But if you like this video, I'd appreciate if you give me a thumbs up. I'd also appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, and you can hit the notification bell if you want to see the additional videos or go back to see the previous videos on my channel as far as making the junk journal and making pockets and other things, elements to go in the journal, the paper clips and those things. I would appreciate it. And you can also leave me a comment if you have any questions or comments. I would love to hear from you. So I thank you for stopping by and watching, and I hope you join me for the next video. Thanks for stopping by. Bye-bye.